Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, September 16th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in this week. Now, this week's update is going to be a bit of a catch-all, if you will, of events that are going on during the month of September, things that our association's been involved in, some meetings we've been attending, as well as what you can expect to be learning about over the next few weeks. Now, of course, anytime the summer ends and we get past Labor Day, things just take off like a rocket ship again, and this year is no exception to that. There's a lot happening all at once. We have a lot of in-person meetings taking place, and I think it's even busier than normal because in some cases it's been a full 3 years since these types of meetings have happened. Now, speaking of meetings, I want to thank those members who took the time to drive down to Randolph, to Lombardo's last Friday to participate in our Mass Retirees annual meeting. It had been 3 years since we held an annual meeting. We had a pretty good turnout. It was not quite as chock full of members as pre-pandemic days, but it was a better turnout than what we had originally expected. And we got a lot of positive feedback for those members who were in attendance. I hope you enjoyed the show, so to speak. But I know that several of you came up and spoke with me after the meeting, and you drove well over an hour to come down to Randolph to the meeting, so we very much appreciate that. And because of the success of this meeting and the proof that there is definitely an interest amongst some members of, once again, attending in-person meetings, we're going to start to schedule these events on a regular basis. Now, we will be announcing, hopefully by next week, 2 or 3 meetings here in Massachusetts through the end of 2022. One area we're looking at is somewhere Springfield, Amherst, Central Mass area. We're working with a couple of different locations. We're trying to lock down some dates. So as soon as we know the date, we'll let all of you know so you can plan. But that meeting most likely will take place sometime from early to mid-October. So coming right up, so stay tuned. We are also planning on holding our traditional end-of-the-year meeting down in Westport, Mass. It is typically the Friday before Thanksgiving is normally when we're down at White's of Westport. So we are working with White's to try to secure a date. As soon as that is locked in, we'll be letting you know. And then, of course, looking into 2023, we're going to start to hold these meetings on a regular basis again. And one of the things we're doing here internally is taking our database, mapping our database on an actual geographical map. We want to make sure that we're holding our meetings in locations where our members live, and not just sticking with a traditional location because that's where we've always held it. I do believe if it's not broke, don't fix it, but I want to make sure that it's not broken. And the same applies to Florida. I know Florida is a huge state. We can't possibly get to every corner of it, but I want to make sure that we're going to the locations where it's going to be easier for retirees to get to. That retirees are not going to have to drive for 3 hours across the state of Florida or longer to get to one of our meetings. So we're working on those projects now internally. We'll be making those announcements for 2023 later this year. Certainly by the time we get into November, we can lock some of these things in. But it's going to be great to get out there and see all of you in person again. Now, at the same time, as we've said in the past, we are going to continue to hold our virtual teletown hall meetings. Those will continue indefinitely. We will hold teletowns when we have information that we need to share with you, or we have a guest speaker. We want to make sure that we're providing relevant, up-to-date information that you want to engage with, or else people just aren't going to participate, and we don't want to waste your time or our time or spend the money on something that's not worthwhile. So we are working on arranging some great guest speakers for this fall and into next year. Some folks that normally would have a little bit of a difficulty getting them to an in-person meeting, and the teletown hall is super easy for people to fit into their schedules. So look to the newsletter, look to these weekly updates, but as soon as we lock in some of these dates, whether they be in person or virtual, we'll get that information out to all of you so you can put it on your calendar. In the meantime, as I mentioned before, we're starting to attend larger meetings here in Massachusetts just on Wednesday, which is the day I'm filming this, a little secret, I normally film this a day or two in advance. I make sure we get it done and the email written and out to you first thing on Friday morning. But right now it's about 5:30 on Wednesday. I just came back from the AFL-CIO of Massachusetts annual constitutional convention. Thank you so much, AFL-CIO President Steve Tolman, for the invitation, for having me today as your guest. It was a very informative meeting. It's something that we're going to make sure we do on a regular basis. Now, we work very closely with the AFL-CIO and with all of the public employee unions. And that's despite the fact that we're not a union, we're not affiliated with the AFL-CIO or any other labor organization, but many of our members, a large portion of you, are retired union members. Many of you were union leadership. Our organization has a very strong tradition of working hand in hand with the AFL-CIO, with the public employee unions, on all of the issues of mutual concern. So whether it be health insurance or public pensions or Social Security weapon GPO, which was a hot topic today. I had more conversations with union leaders here in Massachusetts about weapon GPO than you can shake a stick out at today. And everyone's feeling the same pressure from their members. Everyone's desperate to find a solution to this problem. And we're all working together. We're all encouraging and urging Congressman Neal to do everything in his power to come to an agreement this year that can pass both the House and the Senate. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of those issues other than to say it remains an ongoing day-to-day issue. We have had conversations with both Republicans and Democrats just this week from the congressional staffers on both sides in Washington, D.C., on some back and forth proposals and so forth that are being made, trying to cut a deal that, again, won't just pass the House of Representatives. In some ways, that's the easy part, even though that's extremely difficult. But we don't want to see a bill pass the House only to go nowhere in the Senate. Because remember, we need 60 votes in order for a Social Security bill to pass the U.S. Senate. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, the support is there. And that's why our focus here at Mass Retirees has been on WEP reform rather than the bigger issue of full repeal of both WEP and GPO, because we just don't believe that the votes exist at this time in the Senate to pass full repeal of WEP and GPO. But we do believe, as we have continued to say, that the votes are there to pass a reform of the windfall elimination provision. So once we have some more concrete information to share with all of you, and hopefully some news on progress being made, because we're under a very limited time frame here between now and the end of this year before the next Congress comes in. So we're going to do everything we possibly can to get something done this year to provide some relief to all of you who have been harmed by the WEP for all of this time. Now, in addition to the AFL-CIO meeting today, on Thursday, our whole staff here will be, or at least most of us, will be participating in the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission's Emerging Issues Forum held out at Holy Cross in Worcester. PARAC traditionally has held this conference every fall, going back a decade or more. Joe Connerton, who's of course our association treasurer, and Frank Valeri, our president, they started this when they were both at PARAC, and John Parsons, the current director of PARAC, has continued this tradition. It's a great conference, and it brings together the whole retirement community, retirement board members, organizations like Mass Retirees, government officials, to look at the status of our public pension systems, look at some emerging issues that we are concerned about or we want to work on. And it's a way to try to get ahead of the curve, if you will, on things like the COLA and funding pension systems and pension funding schedule extensions and what things are going to look like in the future in terms of the sustainability of our public pension system. So we'll be spending the day on Thursday out at PARAC. I'll be reporting more on potential issues that we learn about in either the newsletter or one of these Friday updates. Now, the other big thing, two big things that we're focused on right now, of course, as you all know, the Group Insurance Commission is out for procurement on all of the health insurance plans, as well as the 2 pharmaceutical benefits plans that are offered by the GIC. Those procurements went out late last spring and early summer. Those bids have been back now for the last several months. The GIC staff and their consultants have been analyzing those bids, and we believe that some decisions will begin to be publicly made over the next couple of months. Now, this Thursday, the GIC will hold its first meeting since last June, so we might have a little bit of information that emerges in terms of just the time frame of some of these decisions. And we're thinking maybe at the October meeting, which will take place in the middle of October, that we might get our first glimpse at what those decisions may in fact be, whether they be announcements of which insurance plans will continue or new plans coming in potentially, or the pharmaceutical vendors. So that's going to be a major focus of ours over the next few months, because as you know, your health insurance benefits are vitally important. And even if you're a local retiree, you know full well that the decisions made by the state quickly become local policy. So it's something that all of us need to pay very close attention to. And last but certainly not least, we are now in the production period for our November newsletter, The Voice. We will be going to press with The Voice in about 2.5 weeks, so it's right around the corner. We've got a ton of writing to do. I just met with Bill Reary yesterday to go through the content and nail down exactly what we want to report on in this edition. It's something to definitely look forward to. We have a lot of great information to share. We will have our general election endorsements in the November newsletter. That's why we're going to press a little bit early to get that information to you in early October. So you can use that as part of your decision-making process for whom you want to vote for in the upcoming November election. So with that, I'm going to sign off for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a member, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.